Our viewers have bombarded GT for months now regarding a certain myth we've neglected for far too long. The fans have spoken, and pop fiction is happy to oblige. We're heading back to the Kanto region, a land filled with tall tales about cute psychic little Pokemon, fabled Pokegods, and other rare and powerful Pokemon lurking at the four corners of the world. Sure, the story behind catching Mew might have been tantalizing, but it honestly pales in comparison to one of the most bizarre and ridiculous myths in all of Pokédom, the legend of Missing Number. Images of Missing Number first appeared on the internet in the late 1990s, creating a whirlwind of rumors and speculation, some more ridiculous than others. With so much random information out there, we couldn't help but wonder, does this rare Pokemon actually exist in the original editions of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow for the Game Boy? And if so, what's the story behind it? We came across various ways to supposedly unlock Missing Number courtesy of Pokemon fan site Bulbapedia. According to their extensive research, there are apparently two ways to catch a missing number in the first generation Pokemon games. The first way, referred to as the classic method, requires you to have either a copy of Pokemon Red or Blue for the Game Boy with at least one Pokemon with the Surf ability and one with the Fly ability in your party. When you're ready to go, head over to Viridian City and start a conversation with the old man shown on the screen here. Tell him that you're not in a hurry, and then watch a brief sequence unfold where the old man catches a wild Weedle. Once you're free to move around again, make your way over to Cinnabar Island using the Fly ability, and then use the Surf ability to move on the spaces that appear to be part of the shore. Depending on what name you've selected for your trainer, you will supposedly encounter either a normal Pokemon, a wild Missing Number, or another mysterious Pokemon nicknamed M. The second method might seem familiar to those of you who have seen episode 7 of Pop Fiction. By using the steps we outlined for catching Mew, it's apparently possible to make Missing Number appear. As a refresher, you'll need to head over to Route 8 near the door to the underground path, and it's recommended that you save at this point. You'll need to have a Pokemon with the Fly ability, and then take a single step towards the trainer referred to as the Gambler. Once you do that, immediately spam the start button, and if you timed it correctly, you can access the menu. Select the Pokemon from the menu with the Fly ability, but this time you'll need to fly to Lavender Town and go into the Pokemon Tower. Encounter and defeat Channeler, and then head back to Route 8. A menu will appear, and when you press B to close it, a wild Missing Number will appear. You can then use a Pokeball, preferably your Master Ball, to catch it. In the end, our findings proved fruitful. Using the classic method, we were able to encounter Missing Number and successfully capture it. We're not going to lie, we're sure many of you probably already knew that Missing Number indeed existed, but what's perhaps the real mystery is why Missing Number appeared in the first place. Earlier we mentioned that your trainer name is an important factor. The letters of your name actually determine what Pokemon appears while surfing off the coast of Cinnabar Island. During the battle with the Old Man, the game temporarily switches your trainer's name to Old Man. The game's programming then saves the player's real name temporarily to the space in the memory where wild Pokemon data is stored for grass environments. Usually when you move to another area, the data will be overwritten, remedying the situation, but in city environments, like the one you travel through to get to the coast on Cinnabar Island, the data isn't overwritten. Instead, the player name is still stored in the spot reserved for determining what Pokemon should appear in grass areas when you use Surf and move along the coastline. The final piece of the puzzle is how the programmers coded the tiles that make up the coast of Cinnabar Island. Typically, grass areas aren't found in water routes, but the shore is comprised of tiles marked in the game's coding as having the same property as grass. Combine this with the fact that entering a water route won't overwrite the data you've been holding onto since you watched the Old Man capture a Weedle, and you have the recipe for a cool glitch. The game calls upon the player's name when determining what Pokemon should appear at this point, specifically the 3rd, 5th, and 7th characters of the player's name. The Pokemon's levels are determined by the 2nd, 4th, and 6th characters of the name. Other slots could also be used in determining the wild Pokemon's appearance, but due to the 7-character name limit, these slots are usually left unused. You have to have a certain letter or symbol in the right slot in the player's name for Missing Number to appear, if you've picked a custom name. Likewise, you can just pick from one of the preset names that will also trigger Missing Number. Missing Number's appearance also depends on what character is used in the designated slots of the player's name. If W is the character in the 3rd, 5th, or 7th slot of the player's chosen name, then Missing Number will take on the form of a Kabutops fossil. If X is the character in the 3rd, 5th, or 7th slot, then Missing Number will take on the form of an Aerodactyl fossil. Finally, if Y is the character, then Missing Number will take on the form of a ghost. The classic method of catching Missing Number, also referred to as the Old Man glitch, only works in the red and blue version, but not yellow. The second method, utilizing the Mew glitch, proved successful in not only both red and blue versions, but also Pokemon Yellow. Much like in the way that we caught Mew before, it's the value of the Pokemon special you defeat before returning to Route 8 that determines what wild Pokemon makes an appearance. If the special value of the Pokemon you defeated is one of the following numbers, then a normal missing number will appear. If the special value is 182, then missing number will appear in Kabutops fossil form. If it's 183, missing number will be in Aerodactyl fossil form. And if it's 184, then it will be a ghost. In Pokemon Yellow, the special stat of the last Pokemon you defeated needs to be one of the following for missing number to appear. Once you actually capture a wild missing number, there are several cool things that are now possible. One of these is that if you use the N64 Transfer Pack and connect your Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow game pack to Pokemon Stadium and view missing number, it will appear as a substitute doll. Subsequently, if you view missing number in Pokemon Stadium 2, it'll appear as a Ditto. You can also trade missing number with no problem between your copies of Pokemon Red or Blue, but if you try to trade it in between Red or Blue and Yellow, that's when things can get a bit strange. It will still work, but some odd glitches can occur. If you try to trade missing number from Generation 1 to a Generation 2 game like Pokemon Gold, Silver, or Crystal, it won't work. You can view missing number's info from the Generation 2 game, but you can't successfully trade it. But perhaps the most useful trick to come out of catching or defeating missing number is the item duplication glitch. This trick will cause the number of the item in the 6th slot of your inventory to increase dramatically, up to 128 in all if the count was originally below that number. Because the counter symbol glitches out and the fact that you can repeatedly square off against missing number, this led many players to abuse the trick to essentially get infinite amounts of rare items like the Master Ball or rare candy. One last thing to remember is that encountering, capturing, or defeating a missing number will not cause any damage to your game card, nor will it ruin your save data. Catching missing number will result in some odd glitches, like your Hall of Fame data being corrupted and other strange visual anomalies, but nothing that can permanently damage your game. So what does Nintendo have to say on the matter? Nintendo first made a public statement regarding missing number in the May 1999 issue of Nintendo Power, saying, "Missing number is a programming quirk and not a real part of the game. When you get this, your game can perform strangely and the graphics will often become scrambled. The missing number Pokemon is most often found after you perform the Fight Safari Zone Pokemon trick. To fix the scrambled graphics, try releasing the missing number Pokemon. If the problem persists, the only solution is to restart your game. This means erasing your current game and starting a brand new one." However, fans have discovered that Nintendo's instructions on fixing the graphical issues are wrong, and that the easiest way to fix the glitches caused by missing number is to view the Pokédex data of an official Pokemon. We reached out to Nintendo's customer service to see if they had changed their tune about missing number, but the email response we received was virtually the same as the statement issued over 13 years ago. So what exactly is missing number? There have been rumors circulating for years about a theory linking missing number to the supposed story behind the evolution of Cubone. The story goes that in the sprite for Kangaskhan, there's a cub, which is actually an infant form of Cubone. When Kangaskhan dies, the cub is abandoned and takes the skull of its mother and becomes a proper Cubone. Cubone then naturally evolves into Marowak. However, female Marowaks can then evolve into Kangaskhan. According to this fan theory, Kangaskhan wasn't originally planned to be a part of Cubone's evolutionary path, and instead had a different predecessor. The remains of that scrapped concept is, according to this theory, actually missing number. One piece of evidence typically cited in this theory is that when missing number manages to evolve, it sometimes evolves into Kangaskhan. However, the truth is that missing number doesn't evolve into Kangaskhan. It's actually another glitch Pokemon called M that evolves into that form. Kangaskhan's hex value is one of the first in the overall list for all Pokemon hex values, and M's evolution into it is the result of an attempt by the game to correct the error triggered by having the glitch Pokemon in the first place. As convincing as this theory sounds, it's nothing more than fanfiction. According to one of the game's original programmers, Shigeki Morimoto, who also happens to be the creator of Mew, there were originally 190 different types of Pokemon intended for the game's release. However, as we all know, there are only 151 Pokemon in the final version. The actual data in the game's memory that identifies Pokemon is a single 8-bit byte, meaning there are actually 256 possible values. 39 of these values come up as missing number, and it serves as an error handle used for blank or unformatted Pokemon data. The other 66 come up as other various glitch Pokemon, which explains why players encountered so many bizarre Pokemon in Generation 1. Nintendo did remake the games for the Game Boy Advance in the form of Fire Red and Leaf Green, but missing number is not present in these games. However, there are other glitch Pokemon in these games, and others, like one called Decamarx. The bottom line is that Missing Number is the real deal and can be found in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.